Yeah. 3-6, mafia.
Yeah.
Whoa. Hey. Yeah. Whoa.
Say what? Whoa. 3-6 mafia. It's going down. Y'all know what time it is. We ain't playing with you. In the club, in the street.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to No B.S. Season 3, Episode 6. You know, I'm here with Isaiah and Furman and myself. And like I said, ladies and gentlemen, we're still missing Callan. We're up to like day 36. And as we go on to press on without Callan, I will show our glorious picture to start us off. Day 36 without Callan. You know, we're keeping it strong. We just crossed a month without him, but, you know, we're just hoping in the day that he comes back, we'll have a good time. But I'll go to Isaiah. Isaiah, how are you doing this fine, wonderful Friday night in February?
Trevor, I am doing good, man. It is actually day 3 without Callan because Callan actually came on for a bit in John Alcorn's 1-year anniversary show that he had a couple of nights ago. So that number that you have right now, it's a bit misleading, but I don't know.
No way. Oh, man.
Yes, it's a bit misleading, but I don't know if you can count like coming on for like 10-15 minutes as like a show that he did with us, but still he did come on, so I guess you can change it if you want. But I'm doing good, man. I've got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. You know, the Carson Wentz trade, the Lakers and Nets, the Lamelo Ball topic, which I have a long rant prepared for. So got a lot of great stuff to get into, man. I'm ready, man, and let's do this.
You know, Isaiah, the more I think about it, I think it's just be factoring no BS. If Callan doesn't come on no BS, then I'll change the count. So when the day that he comes back on no BS, I will flip the script and start over on my account and see where that takes me. But, you know,
makes sense.
You know, it's pretty fair because he hasn't been on this show in like the last 36 days. So I'm going to hold to it. And I'll go to Furman. Furman, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's a lot of topics to go over today. And, you know, all the stuff that went down with the recent trade, especially of Carson Wentz, you know, it really shocked me. I think it all started with Jared Goff to the Detroit Lions that kind of, you know, caused all this crazy, all these crazy free agency talks about how much these quarterbacks are really worth. Is it worth giving up first or second round picks for them? So, you know, I don't know about this one. I think it's going to be a very controversial topic, and it's not even over yet because me as Isaiah and I as 49ers fans, we also have Jimmy G on the block, and we don't even know if he's going to be traded or not. So this is going to be a crazy topic that we're going to go over, and there's a lot more to it too. The NBA is also getting exciting. They recently revamped their All-Star format, so can't wait to talk about that.
All right, and you know, Cal McClurg is joining in and says, "Hey, Isaiah, guess what? I'm watching you. So, you know, be careful, Isaiah, what you say. I know we have our pick'ems coming back later tonight to talk about, you know, spring football. But let's crack into the NFL first, gentlemen. Like as Furman stated, you know, Carson Wentz is now an Indianapolis Colts. To me, this is just like replacing Phillip Rivers with another solid quarterback, and they'll probably go 10-6 again and probably fall short in the playoffs in a wild card weekend because like Wentz is just not used to the team. So there's nothing really surprising here where they could go 10-6. Maybe they could go 11-5, win like an extra game down to a wire because of like a bad play call or pick six. But you know, I don't think the Indianapolis Colts team can really, you know, expand on becoming a team that goes like, you know, 13-3 in this scenario. It's going to be like another 10-6 team, but it's like they could win the division, but if not, they'll be like in the wild card spot. But I'll go to Isaiah. What do you think? You know, are they the favorites, I guess you want to say, in the AFC South? And is this really a good thing for the, you know, Indianapolis Colts?
Well, Trevor, I will start with giving my reaction to the trade because ever since the trade went down yesterday, I haven't been able to give my reaction to the news. So, my reaction to this trade is I believe that this was a great trade for all parties involved. Did the Eagles get swindled? For a guy that was drafted number 2 overall and not that long ago, and he had an MVP caliber season just 3 years ago. Yes, I do in fact believe that the Philadelphia Eagles, they got swindled. But Carson Wentz, his stock was at an all-time low after his bad season that he had this past year. And also he has an albatross contract, which is very, very hard to move off of. And teams, I just don't believe, are going to want to pay full value to get Carson Wentz due to his bad season and his mammoth contract. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And you just cannot afford not to trade Carson Wentz because he was just so disgruntled from the organization and really wanted out. So I believe the Philadelphia Eagles, they got decent value in return. You can get some good players with that 3rd-round pick that you got in return, and also that 2nd-round pick that you got in return that is for the draft, not this year's draft, but the draft after this year's draft. It can potentially turn into a 1st-round pick because I believe that pick is based on how many snaps Carson Wentz plays. And if he plays like a large amount of snaps, then that pick would turn into a 1st-round pick. And next year's draft, believe it or not, I think the quarterbacks that are coming out are going to be either at the same level as this year's class or even better than this year's class, because you got guys like Sam Howell from North Carolina, Keaton Slovis from USC, potentially JT Daniels from Georgia, who had a fantastic first month with the Georgia Bulldogs, that I'll say. So I think the Eagles, I actually like what they did and got in this deal, unlike a lot of people that have said that, hey, they don't like what the Eagles got in this deal. I think the Eagles did okay in this deal. But when you look at the Colts side of things, the Indianapolis Colts, I think we all three of us can agree, the Colts, they badly needed a quarterback. And they got a guy in Carson Wentz who, when he last played under Frank Reich, the guy was putting up MVP caliber numbers back in 2017. And Frank Reich is a phenomenal developer of quarterbacks. He is good at fixing quarterbacks. I mean, just look what he did with Andrew Luck, then look what he did with Jacoby Brissett, then look what he did with Phillip Rivers this past season. I think that he will be able to fix Carson Wentz. Maybe not get Carson Wentz back to the MVP level that he was back in 2017, but he will definitely get Carson Wentz back to being a better version of himself than he was last season. And also the Indianapolis Colts, if you look at that team, they have a lot of good weapons. I mean, Jonathan Taylor at running back. They also have Marlon Mack as well. Wide receivers, they've got T.Y. Hilton. I don't know if he's a free agent. Don't know if they're going to bring him back. If they do choose to, in fact, bring him back, I think it will be a good decision because it gives Carson Wentz a deep threat to throw the football to. And then you look at their defense. I mean, their defense last year was one of the best defenses in the NFL, led by the former 49er, DeForest Buckner, in the middle. So this Colts team, they just needed a quarterback. They got one. And to your second question, Trevor, are they the favorites in that division? I'm going to say right now that I think that the Colts are the slight favorites in that division because I don't believe in Tennessee. I've never believed in Tennessee. I thought that Tennessee has always been a fluke. And I just think that, Tennessee, their defense is on a downward trajectory. And Ryan Tannehill, I've never believed in him. I've always thought that this is how you stop the Tennessee Titans on offense. You stop Derrick Henry, and it's game over for the Titans on offense. And with that defense being not what it once was, I just don't believe the Titans can sustain the level of success that they've had the last couple of seasons. The Texans, Deshaun Watson, he's probably going to get traded. They are on their way to a full-fledged rebuild. And Trevor Furman, believe it or not, don't count out the Jacksonville Jaguars in that division. I'm not saying the Jaguars are going to win that division, but I'm a huge fan of Urban Meyer. I love the hire by the Jaguars. I think that him and Trevor Lawrence are going to be a great duo in Jacksonville. And the Jaguars, they have over $100 million in cap space. They have 11 draft picks as well. I think Jacksonville, they can quickly get back on their feet after this offseason. And I do, in fact, believe that the Jacksonville Jaguars, they are going to be very tough for opponents next year, and they're going to be a thorn in everybody's side. So I got to say right now it's the Colts and then possibly the Jaguars and the Titans battling it out for second and third place in the AFC South.
Interesting stuff, Isaiah. I think it's going to be one of those tough things that we're going to see ends up unfolding in the AFC. But it's at the same time, can Carson Wentz stay healthy and be a productive quarterback in Indianapolis? Or will he fall short to some injuries and just be like a bust for the Colts and just mess up something that could be potentially great? Because at this point, we're seeing free agent being ridiculous. So we could see another superstar weapon, not at the quarterback position, but a wide receiver and for the Indianapolis Colts, or getting a nice tight end. So we have to wait and see what really unfolds for the rest of the season. I don't think they're going to try to get a tight end, but if they do, it's perfect. But even look at the Indianapolis Colts. They have like a nice running back game as well with Jonathan Taylor and with Marlon Mack. Like they have a decent, respectable squad. So it's definitely going to be something we will definitely keep our eye on. But I want to go to Furman and his takes on Carson Wentz. And is he a good fit for the Colts? And do you think, the Colts are going to be the team to beat in the AFC South? And can they win that division?
I think it's a great trade that the Colts made to get Carson Wentz because just like Isaiah said, a lot of the players that they have are already loaded, and they were only missing a quarterback, which was Phillip Rivers, who recently retired. They have the same structure. They had the same structure for Andrew Luck, who was already with the Colts and played relatively well almost every season with them. And I think getting Carson Wentz back on track is definitely a priority, and the Colts are like the perfect fit for him, in my opinion. I think Frank Reich's a really great coach in terms of just building the team all around. Last year, the Colts have great weapons offensively and defensively, but it was clear that their defense dominated most of the games and brought them to where they were. So adding Carson Wentz, I think, is actually an upgrade to the offense compared to Phillip Rivers, because Rivers has always been, in my opinion, turnover prone, and situations where you have to rely on him late in the games, he hasn't really been able to pull that off. But on the other hand, you have Carson Wentz, who has worked with a guy, guys like similar to Frank Reich, Doug Peterson, and he turned into an MVP type of quarterback and won this and delivered the regular season for the Eagles to help them win the Super Bowl. So getting Carson Wentz back on track with the Colts is a great move. He has Jonathan Taylor. I think Marlon Mack got hurt last year, so hopefully he gets better. But if I'm the Colts right now, offensively and defensively, I don't really see any new players that needs to be added besides a tight end, because they got Michael Pittman, and I think it was Paris Campbell who got hurt last year early. But I think these guys are about to have, they're due to emerge as like great receivers alongside T.Y. Hilton. So I'm really excited for that. And then obviously defensively, they're pretty loaded. I think they're going to get even better next year. So I think for the only issue I have with Carson Wentz is I just hope that whatever issues that went on with the locker room stuff and the Eagles weren't true, so that he is able to get along with his players and coaches. And if any coaches or players find some ways, to find some feedback or suggestions to improve their offense, Carson Wentz would be able to buy into the team chemistry and continue to improve as a team overall instead of as an individual player. So what does this mean for the Colts compared to the rest of the AFC South? I think it's a tough decision long term because the AFC South is competitive. And I know Houston's on the downfall right now, but if Houston can get themselves back together with Deshaun Watson, it's definitely going to be a one of the best divisions I can foresee in the future. But in terms of 2021, I think the Colts have a slight edge over the rest of the teams in terms of rebuilding and winning the division, because the Colts have a really good offense and defense right now, and Wentz, I can see him returning back to his MVP level, unlike what Isaiah said, as long as he is developed right. Because with the Eagles this year, he didn't have an offensive line, he didn't have healthy running backs or healthy receivers. So what do you expect Wentz to do? But with the Indianapolis Colts this year, I'm not buying into the Titans either, and I think the Colts can easily beat these guys because you just need to stop Derrick Henry, and the Titans, they're pretty much stymied for the rest of the game, as you've seen with their playoff game against the Ravens. So I think the Colts have an easy edge over the Titans. The Jaguars are a pretty good rebuilding team because of how much cap space they have, how many, Urban Meyer as their head coach, and also Trevor Lawrence coming in most likely as their number one quarterback. So I would see that as a problem in the future after 2021, because I still think Jacksonville has a long way to go in terms of getting the right players. So I will hold that off for now. But Houston, once again, I think the Colts, they're going to have an easy ride over Houston. It's always been really close. All the divisional games have been really close between the Colts, Titans, and Texans. But the Colts, I think these guys definitely have like a team similar to, in my opinion, similar to like the Buffalo Bills, where they have a lot of good weapons, offensively and defensively, where they can just play well overall. So I do see Colts getting a deeper playoff run compared to last year.
Good take by Furman. It's very hard to see how the AFC South is going to unfold and what assets the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to bring up. I know Ishmael Lancaster said he liked your point, Isaiah, about the Jaguars, but I think they are a couple years too early, even with Lawrence and Urban Meyer. They still need free agents to come and hit on their picks. So we'll have to keep and see how that really unfolds. Isaiah, go.
I do agree with him on this. The Jaguars right now, I will list them as like a TBD, to be determined, because yes, they do have like 11 draft picks. They have over $100 million in cap space. But like Ishmael says, they got to hit on those picks. You can have all the picks in the world, but what if you draft bust every single pick? Then your organization is not going to go anywhere. I think Lawrence is going to be a good quarterback, or he might be great. I don't know. But right now I'll say he's going to be good. But the Jaguars, they definitely need to beef up that offensive line, get him some better weapons and receivers, tight ends as well. And definitely they got to improve that defense. So I do agree with Ishmael. I don't think that they will win the AFC South next season. But I do believe that they will be like, how the Arizona Cardinals, Trevor, first started when Cliff Kingsbury got hired, where they were just like a thorn in everybody's side. Even though they lost like probably the majority of those games that they played, but they were still in it and they were very competitive to the end. So I think that's what the Jaguars are going to be next season in that division.
All right, and I'll continue to read some of our fantastic comments from our viewers. So Kirsty Wilson says the AFC South is going to be an interesting division to watch. She is definitely right. It's getting Nikita in the AFC. Who's going to be able to topple Patrick Mahomes? Is he going to go to I guess his fourth straight AFC championship game? It's a pretty impressive feat in his season with the Kansas City Chiefs, going to 4 straight AFC championship games, been to 2 Super Bowls. So it's like he's already looking like he's becoming a Hall of Famer at this point in time. So, if he gets back to it and gets to another Super Bowl, 3 Super Bowls in 3 years, it's like a Chiefs dynasty. And we've all been talking about the dynasty at this point. So might as well start that saying, unless some up-and-coming team like the Colts can probably stop that bandwagon. They probably are like one of the best teams to probably do it. But, we have to see what they can do, because Patrick Mahomes, loves coming back from behind and seeing what he can do. And then we have Casey King. Right now he thinks the Colts and Titans are going to battle it out for the AFC South. I couldn't agree more with that, comment. And then also another comment by Casey King is for Wentz, this is probably the best spot for him and him to reunite with Frank Reich. And Wentz did his best work with Reich. Only thing is that with Wentz, he needs to stay healthy, and he does that. If he does that, then, it works out good for the Colts. I kind of have to agree with that. If he stays healthy, he'll be fine. But for me, I wonder if the Colts are going to be playing the Eagles this year and how that's going to feel. And if that's not the case, could we get an Eagles-Colts Super Bowl where Jalen Hurts faces Carson Wentz and it's a showdown between the guy you got rid of and he beats you in the Super Bowl, the guy who got your team to the postseason to help Nick Foles to get your team to the Super Bowl? So there's going to be a lot of good controversy if that actually ends up unfolding. But Isaiah, you have a comment in that before we transition to the NBA segment.
Yes, the Colts are actually going to be playing the NFC West this upcoming or next season. So we unfortunately won't see Hurts versus Carson Wentz. My 49ers, however, will be seeing Carson Wentz. But, unfortunately, we're going to have to wait until the Super Bowl if they both get there to see those two battle it out.
All right, and that'll do it for us on the NFL segment. But we have a hefty NBA segment, gentlemen. A lot of boil down, I believe. The next weekend after, 2 weeks from now almost, the NBA Superstar All-Star Weekend is going to be in full swing with interesting lineups. But before we get to All-Star Weekend and all this excitement, is that we have the big takeaway. The Brooklyn Nets take down the Lakers, 2 nights ago now, Isaiah, to be exact. And, last night? I'll say it every time to you until we get to the end of the season. The NBA season is still young, and these teams can beat each other up. It won't matter until you get into the postseason when all those games actually matter and count. So that's going to be my final stance on this part of the segment for NBA. But I'll go to Isaiah. What do you think about this game? Is this a real threat for the Lakers, or is this one of those regular season losses and they'll bounce back and still ended up dominating and getting to an NBA championship?
This is a real threat for the Lakers. And the reason why I say that is because the Lakers, without Anthony Davis, they're not winning the NBA championship. I think that everybody thought that when Anthony Davis went down, but it's become reality. No Anthony Davis means no NBA championship for this year for the Los Angeles Lakers. The Brooklyn Nets last night, I've been really impressed the last couple of games with them. They have upped their defensive intensity a lot the last couple of nights, starting in the second half against the Phoenix Suns when they were down 24 points. They came all the way back with great defense and, stymied the Suns. And then last night, they just suffocated the Lakers. The Lakers just nobody besides LeBron James could get anything going last night for the Lakers. And what's really concerning for me is that the Lakers last night, let me say this. The Brooklyn Nets, they looked like that they wanted to be there, and the Lakers looked like they didn't want any part of that game last night. The Lakers really looked like a team that was tired, that was sluggish, that was banged up, and they were just ready for a break. And I think that's really troubling if you're the Lakers, because the Lakers, they've had a very short off season to rest and recover and recuperate from their NBA Finals run, and then having to jump back to this season. And guys are just really tired. We're at that point of the NBA season now where guys are just really tired and they are just trudging through to the finish line to try to get to the All-Star break. And the Lakers, I'm concerned because without Anthony Davis, it's a problem because teams are just going to zone in their defense on LeBron, try to stop LeBron at all costs, make the other guys beat you. And the Lakers, the supporting cast just hasn't shown that they can beat other teams besides the bottom feeders like the Minnesota Timberwolves, who they beat, I believe, on Wednesday night or Tuesday night. LeBron last night, 32 points, 33 minutes of play. He had 8 rebounds, 7 assists, was just outstanding. But then you look at the other numbers. Kyle Kuzma, filling in for Anthony Davis. 16 points, 10 rebounds, 34 minutes of play. Very solid night for Kyle Kuzma. But then look at others. Marc Gasol, 8 points, 3 rebounds, 20 minutes of play. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, 9 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist. Wesley Matthews, who filled in for Dennis Schroeder, who was ruled out for the game due to COVID protocols, I believe. He had only just 2 points, 2 rebounds in the game. Taylor Horton-Tucker, 9 points, 5 rebounds in 28 minutes. Alex Caruso had a rare down night, 2 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. Montrezl Harrell had a down night as well, 10 points, 3 rebounds. I'm just worried that these Lakers supporting cast members, they just won't be able to show up, without AD when the Lakers need them to show up the most in the next month or 2 months, that the Lakers will be missing Anthony Davis, and the Lakers need them to show up in order for the Lakers to remain at that number 2 seed, or potentially get a number 1 seed, or even like a top 3 seed that they are right now, and avoid dropping to like a number 4 or a number 5 or even a number 6.
Yeah, Isaiah. I think Casey King is gonna really explain my take on the next part. Is the Lakers without Anthony Davis is going to basically prevent them from repeating. I think you can probably say that, and if they end up facing Brooklyn, it'd be like LeBron James facing the Golden State Warriors, where he has to come back almost 3-1. Though I don't want to count out some of the role players on the Lakers, but it just goes to show that you need that extra piece in Anthony Davis to either body Kevin Durant or face James Harden in that sense. But if you don't have that, it's just LeBron James facing these, I guess I will call it the 3-headed monster. I don't think it's going to be as easy on LeBron James, but it definitely improves his legacy on facing another super team and beating another super team. So it's more power to LeBron at this point in his legacy. If he can take down Brooklyn in the NBA Finals, then it's like it kind of legitimizes him as being more of a GOAT and putting him almost a league with Jordan in that sense, if he's able to take down this elite Brooklyn squad. But I'll go to Furman to think on his takes on, with Anthony Davis and, how he's going to be able to bounce back. And is this really the it for the Lakers and all of the stuff that they have going on this season?
Well, I think it's already, for me, I think this type of season, I already predicted it. Like Anthony Davis, in my opinion, I think he is really injury prone. And that was one of my biggest concerns when the Lakers literally traded a lot of their picks away for Anthony Davis. So it was a huge risk and reward, and it paid off during their first season. But when you only give the NBA players less than 2 months to rest after their 2020 season, I kind of had this type of prediction that a lot of injuries will come in, and it's gonna be like no one is gonna expect it because the players are not healthy enough, or they're probably not conditioned enough to be able to play out the 2021 season after having only 2 months of rest. That happened to the 49ers when there was no training camp and all of our players got hurt. So, looking at the teams that I follow, I had this feeling that Anthony Davis was going to get hurt, and he did. So that was pretty much the story of Brooklyn versus the Lakers, because the Lakers have literally no one else to back LeBron when Anthony Davis gets hurt. It is a huge risk, and I'm saying this over and over again because this is literally true. Like the Lakers, all of their players right now, they all depend on LeBron right now to score. And during the Brooklyn Nets game, that was pretty much what happened. Brooklyn Nets are a super team, in my opinion, and they have a lot of losses this season, but I feel like they don't deserve these many losses. They need to win more games, and they have to have fewer losses, and they have to play better defense like they did against the Lakers when they played against them. The Nets have Joe Harris, Irving, Harden, and KD, who are amazing scorers. So if you put the NBA championship on the line, and if you're going to say that the Lakers are able to easily repeat, I highly disagree, because even with AD healthy, I don't think a fully healthy Brooklyn Nets roster is going to be able to, I don't think Lakers are able to beat this fully healthy Brooklyn Nets roster in the NBA championship. So with that being said, I feel like the Lakers, this might sound crazy, but Lakers have to trade AD for Zion and reverse the trade because Zion's playing way better than AD right now, in my opinion. We need someone that can act.
It is like I see.
What?
Yes.
It's true because the Lakers, they need someone that has to stay healthy. And AD last year, even in the playoffs, had like 10 to 12 injury scares to his leg. And I don't trust AD for this reason. You can score 40 points every night, and you're going to have the same reaction from me. You're going to be a high-risk player that's going to be injury-prone like this all the time. We're alongside LeBron, who literally played through pain the last 2 seasons. AD, you got to step it up, and you cannot let injuries bother you, and you have to be healthy. If we're going to spend all that money or spend all those draft picks to trade away for AD and also give him another extension, AD, you've got to be healthy. You have to step it up. You have to work on, we know you're good on the court, but the Lakers really need you right now. I mean, hopefully his Achilles heals faster so he comes back to help the Lakers, end the regular season on a good run right now, because I think the Lakers season is in jeopardy.
Yeah, our fans didn't take too kindly of that comment of trading away Anthony Davis for him, and I'm sad to say, because, Casey King says that trade won't happen, and then the trade for AD and Zion, no way from Kirsty Wilson. Like, it's really hard for that trade to actually even be pushed through, because it's like you got, like, literally they traded to get Anthony Davis, and now you're going to trade him back. Like, I never heard of a team saying, I got one of your star players, use them to win a championship, and I'll just send them right back to you in a couple of years. Like, that's like a bargaining chip at that point. It's like, yeah, I need to do a Lend-Lease to win a championship in the next, 3 to 5 years. After that, you can have your star player back. Would you ever have that happen to, like, one of your 49ers players, Furman? Like, that just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, you're right. But I'm not literally saying that this trade should happen, like, literally. I'm just trying to make the comparison, just throw it out there. Zion's playing, he had a torn meniscus last year, but right now he's playing healthy and really strong. No one can literally guard him. And if you're going to trade away AD to the Lakers for a number 1 draft pick like Zion, I think the Pelicans won that trade, in my opinion, even though AD won the championship for the Lakers. Because long-term, if you think of this long-term, if AD keeps getting hurt, are the Lakers going to win more championships? It's going to be a high risk because without LeBron, without AD, who are the other players for the Lakers right now that can put them on this run? LeBron is also getting old, and he's, I think, 36 years old right now. So time is running out for LeBron. So if AD really wants to win more rings, he needs to stay healthy, and that's the number 1 thing he needs to do right now, regardless of how well he's playing on offense.
Yeah, Isaiah, you can add something now.
This is exactly why I said before the season that the Lakers needed to get a 3rd star, because LeBron is getting older. Who knows how long LeBron will be able to play at this level before breaking down. And Anthony Davis, he's made of glass. I mean, every single season he's like going down, and you're like holding your breath, like, oh my gosh, I hope this is not season ending. And like the Lakers, without one of these stars, like Furman said, they just can't do anything because, Anthony Davis, or if Anthony Davis goes down, when LeBron James has the ball, all the Lakers players just do is literally stand there and look at LeBron backing down one of the defenders, and then either LeBron takes a shot or once, you have a couple of defenders go get LeBron or go and, help out on LeBron, then LeBron passes it out. That offense is just unsustainable in the NBA. You need more ball movement. You need a 3rd star for the Lakers. That's why I said, like, even though I don't think Phoenix would do it, I would trade like 6 first-round picks to get Devin Booker. I think he's a perfect fit alongside LeBron and Anthony Davis. Because think about it. All the attention is on LeBron. All the attention is on AD, who's guarding Devin Booker outside on the perimeter. He's going to have like a ton of open threes that he will be able to take. So the Lakers needed to get a third star. No disrespect to Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder, I like him, but he's not that third piece that you needed to get. You needed a third star, and Rob Pelinka and the Lakers, they failed to get that third star, and you see what is happening right now in LA. Do I think the Lakers season is in jeopardy? No, but I do believe that the Lakers, for the long term, they needed to get that third star.
Yeah, I think you're right on with the nail on the head with that. They needed a third star to really solidify their whole team. Like last year's team, you had, old veterans like Rondo and Dwight Howard picking things up, but now they're gone. So it's like, who do you turn to pick up like that slack where those veterans ended up, leaving, going to other teams because of the salary cap and just couldn't re-sign those players. But it just goes to show that they needed somebody and they didn't get anybody. Like they had a potential in Kyle Kuzma, but he fell flat in during the playoffs, and it's just like saying you had your opportunity to become that star, but it just didn't come full tuition at that point. But I think that's, a good point for us to segue into All-Star Weekend, gentlemen. Isaiah, I know you can share the pick. You want to start with the West or the East first?
Let's start with the West first on this. Here
right.
is the West All-Star starters.
All right, looking at the West, we got LeBron James, 17-time All-Star player, with Stephen Curry as a 7-time player, with Kawhi Leonard on his 5th, with Nola Jokic. Wow, I'm great with names, guys. Great names. That's why I'm not an announcer. In his 3rd time, and Luka Doncic and his 2nd All-Star weekend. For me, I am not surprised by this. This is actually a pretty good lineup that I would see if someone made a 2K team. I would rock with this team, and I could see this team actually winning the game. But, we have to wait and see what the East is. But I'll go to Isaiah. What do you think about this team? Is this a good team, or you missing somebody? Because I know Anthony Davis would be here, but he's technically hurt. But with that, I think it's still a good, solid team.
It's a good, solid team, but I am going to hop on the bandwagon that everybody is hopping on right now, and that is Damian Lillard got snubbed. Damian Lillard got snubbed. I would have taken out Luka Doncic and put Damian Lillard in ahead of Luka Doncic. No disrespect to Luka. He's a fantastic player, but I think that Damian Lillard should have been given the starting spot over Luka Doncic. I mean, you look at their teams right now. The NBA last year, they set a precedent. What they did was, to earn your spot in the All-Star game, it's based on, how good your team is doing and how good you are doing as a basketball player. I mean, Damian Lillard and Luka Doncic are putting up great numbers. I think Damian Lillard is averaging 30 points per game this season. I mean, he's a beast. This season, he's shooting 54% from the field, 33.5% from 3. He's just been a fabulous player this year for the Portland Trailblazers. And the reason why I think he should be over Luka as a starter is because when you look at the standings, the Portland Trailblazers right now are 4th in the NBA. They are 18-10, while the Dallas Mavericks are 10th in the league at 13-15. Based on the league's precedent, I think that Dame should have gotten in as the starter over Luka because the Blazers are doing much better than the Mavs. And the Blazers, I think, right now are surprising a lot of folks because who would have thought coming into the season that the Trailblazers, the team that the team that last season had to battle their way into the playoffs in the bubble and beat the Grizzlies and get in as the 8th seed. They're the 4th seed right now in the Western Conference, the loaded Western Conference, may I add. It's just really amazing what Damian Lillard is doing. That's kind of the only issue that I have with this starters for the West. But other than that, I think it's a really solid group.
Furman, I'll go to you. What do you think about this Western All-Star lineup? Is it good? Would you rather see somebody else in this lineup? Let me know your thoughts.
I actually think this is a really solid lineup for the West. However, besides Steph Curry, I think all these players remind me of like an old school Dirk Nowitzki team. Because for the first time in a while, I think we'll get to that later, but I think the Eastern All-Star starters are way better than these guys. So I'm proud of Nikola Jokic, especially because he had a really great emerging season this year. He came back out of the bubble and now he's just playing really well. So really proud of Nikola Jokic. Luka Doncic, I think, it's very controversial, obviously, because he was selected over Damian Lillard as a starter. Even if the Mavericks record isn't the best right now, I think Luka Doncic deserves this spot because he provides a lot of utility besides just scoring. If you actually watch Luka Doncic's games, his scoring is actually not his number one priority. He loves rebounding and also passing the ball. So he's an all-around player, yet somehow he's still averaging nearly 30 points a game this season. So that tells you what type of player Luka Doncic is, and he's really willing to put his game on the line at every single possession with the Dallas Mavericks. And even when he doesn't win games, you could tell that he has a lot of passion for every single game that he plays with Dallas. So great pick there. And for the rest, LeBron's a 17-time All-Star, no question there. Kawhi Leonard, another amazing player. So these players deserve to get their spots. And I think Steph Curry also has probably the best comeback of the year because at 32 years old, going through injuries, he still has proven to the entire league that he is still the best three-point shooter and the best point guard scorer in the league. This year, he's literally been put in almost the same situation as LeBron right now. There's a lot of, decent players on the Warriors, but there isn't really a guy that can lead them to, winning games. And the Warriors were the worst team in the NBA last year, and they're 16-13 this year, even after their loss today. Adding Curry back into the lineup really transformed the Warriors' offense, and Curry really, he really proved to the league why he's the best three-point shooter. Every game, he just, shoots it up there. He does that Curry slide, the step backs, and makes it like it's nothing. So, he really deserves his spot, and I think this Western Conference lineup is great. I like it.
All right, Isaiah, can you pull up the Eastern All-Stars? And look at these bad boys from the East. We got Kevin Durant, 11-time All-Star, with following him up with Kyrie Irving as 7-time All-Star appearance. Follow that up with Giannis Antetokounmpo, 5-time All-Star, with Joel Embiid, 4-star All-Star, and to finish it off with Bradley Beal, 3-star All-Star. What do you guys think about this lineup? I think this is a physical lineup. These guys can hoop, they can drive in the paint, they can shoot long range. I think, comparing it to the Western All-Stars feel big and sluggish, but the guys on the East, I think they just have that. They're more lean, but they have the speed to do so. But I want to go to Isaiah. What do you think about this team? Is there somebody missing that you would like to see on this Eastern All-Stars? Are you pretty satisfied with what you see?
I am pretty satisfied with what I'm seeing. Joel Embiid, no problem whatsoever. The Sixers are the number one team in the East. They are having a phenomenal year. Joel Embiid himself is having a phenomenal year right now. He's putting up MVP type numbers. He definitely deserves to be an all-star starter. Giannis, no issues as well. I mean, this guy, he is arguably either the best player on the planet or the second best player on the planet. I mean, we could get into a whole debate about that. But, Giannis and the Bucks right now, they are I believe the second or third best team in the East. So I got no problem. Giannis is doing his thing. Kevin Durant, no issue as well because, Kevin Durant coming off that Achilles, he's having a phenomenal comeback story. He is leading the Brooklyn Nets right now the Brooklyn Nets right now are playing as advertised. They're playing really good basketball. And Durant himself is playing really good basketball. Bradley Beal, you could say you could argue maybe James Harden deserved it over him, but for me, I would have picked Bradley Beal because I just think that I don't like to see a Eastern All-Stars having 3 from the same team on that team. So I like parity, and I think that Bradley Beal, even though we said earlier with Damian Lillard, winning takes precedent when setting whoever is the all-star starter over other players. So I still think Beal deserved it because he's putting up great numbers, and Harden's numbers has declined recently. And Kyrie Irving, I mean, you could maybe swap Harden out for Kyrie because Irving's missed a bunch of games, whether it's due to dealing with the mental issues that he was dealing with and other stuff like that. And Harden's played more games, but I don't really have any problems with this group. I might be able to put maybe Harden in over Kyrie or Harden in over Beal, but that's probably about it, honestly.
And Furman, what about you? Do you like this lineup? Are you satisfied, or is there a star player that got left out of the mix?
This lineup looks pretty solid right now, in my opinion. And like I said before, I think this lineup is way better than what I saw in the Western lineup. And I also have to give a huge shout out to Joel Embiid because he scored 50 points tonight, and he's having a lot of MVP numbers in his last 10 games. He's been on a roll, and the 76ers are first place when, they got swept last year in the playoffs. Embiid was dismal, and the rest of the critics were also saying that the 76ers process is collapsing and they're going to have to rebuild. But look at where they are right now. They're controlling the entire Eastern Conference over the Brooklyn Nets. So it's a really big jump and a great improvement for Joel Embiid and his team. So I'm really proud of him. And this team, like Trevor said, is very lean. This Eastern Conference team is lean and fast, and they're very athletic. When I look at the Western Conference starters, when I look at Jokic and Doncic, these guys have really, really slow play styles. So, nothing wrong with their game because they're still playing really well. But I think the Eastern guys right here are just way faster, and they're able to do a lot more on the court when they're playing. I'm looking at Bradley Beal right now, and I think that's a pretty good option right now because Bradley Beal is putting up great numbers. Even if the Wizards are losing, he's giving his heart. He's putting his heart out into the game, and it's really showing. So he deserves that spot. KD, no question there. He deserves that spot. After coming back from an Achilles injury, he still can't be guarded, and he makes shots look so easy. So yeah, the Warriors, man, I really miss him. I really miss seeing him with the Warriors, even though it was a terrible decision for him or for according to everyone else. I still, KD leaving the Warriors has a huge impact on the Warriors right now. So, and then Kyrie Irving, I think this was very questionable because I think he just missed way too many games this year. And there are a couple of candidates that I believe could fill in that spot. And even though this guy's not a point guard, I think Jaylen Brown should have taken over the starting spot over Kyrie Irving because Jaylen Brown's having such a breakout year, and I don't think he's missed more than 1 or 2 games this year. He's playing really well, and I think his numbers are a lot better than Kyrie's. So I think Jaylen Brown deserves that starting spot over Kyrie, in my opinion. But you could argue both ways because Kyrie's also a really good player. And then Giannis, no question there. He's a unstoppable force, just gets to the rim so easy with 1 or 2 steps or 1 dribble. So it's an amazing lineup right here. So I'm really excited for the Eastern Conference this year.
All right, before we move on to another part of All-Star Weekend, Ishmael has a question. Do you guys believe Trae Young should have been a starter? I'll go to Isaiah. What do you think? Should Trae Young been a starter?
Oh man, this is really tough because there is a lot of great players in the Eastern Conference that I think deserved starting spots. Furman brought up Jaylen Brown, Trae Young. You could make an argument for him as well. He's averaging right now 26.5 points per game, shooting 42% from the field, 36% from three. But the reason why I would say no is because, like I have made with my arguments, winning takes precedent when it comes to who is an all-star all-star starter and who is not. And I believe that Trae Young, I think he's going to be an all-star, but I think he deserves to be, coming off the bench because for Trae Young, the Hawks have been one of the major disappointments in the NBA. A lot of people coming into the year picked the Atlanta Hawks to be, to be like the darling to come out, or not come out of the East, but make the playoffs in the East, because they got Trae Young, they have Clint Capella, they have all these young players that they have, and the Hawks, they've been a really big disappointment. They're 12-17 right now. I just think that the record being what it is right now, that's why I would say for me, Trae Young is not an all-star starter, even though he's a fabulous player.
And Furman, what about you? Do you believe Trae Young should have been a starter for the East?
No, I would not consider him a starter for many reasons. I think he deserves a reserve spot because of the numbers he puts up. It's definitely there. But there are so many reasons I can get into as to why Trae Young should not be an all-star starter. And one of the main reasons is a lot of the controversy and criticisms about his game. He's only a 42% shooter from, in general, I think. And also, half of his points almost every game comes from the foul line. And he gets a lot of these calls that people consider, does he really deserve these calls? Are they real calls? Or are they calls that are acted out like James Harden's? So, it's very controversial as to how he gets his numbers. People think it could be overinflated. Others think he's just not consistent, and that's part of where I would categorize myself to put Trae Young into. I think Trae Young's not consistent enough because he's taking a lot less threes this year. And the main reason why I think is because he just doesn't have a consistent jump shot. If you're going to be consistent, you got to be able to shoot lights out every game. And you can't rely simply on free throws every single time to, bring up those numbers. And also the second reason why I think Trae Young should be on the reserve is what Isaiah mentioned. The Hawks are 12-17 this year, and they do not deserve this spot with the amount of good players they have right now. You have Trae Young, Clint Capella, you have John Collins, Herter, Cam Reddish, DeAndre Hunter, and Bogey are hurt, but with all these players on your roster, you would expect the Hawks to be in the top 3 seeds right now with this much talent. But this goes back to Trae Young because a lot of these players are reportedly criticizing his gameplay, his strategy when he's out there. And one of these biggest critics is John Collins himself. John Collins is one of the most important players for the Hawks right now. And he's calling out Trae Young for just not giving him enough opportunities to score, or he's just holding on to the ball for too long and taking bad shots. And that's, I think, part of the reason as to why John Collins is asking for a trade away from the Atlanta Hawks. So Trae Young is dealing with a lot of, team and personnel issues right now, as well as, in my opinion, his own play style. He needs to be able to consistently score instead of just simply relying purely on free throws attempts, getting good foul calls, or just drawing up whatever foul calls that the refs would just automatically give to him. I need to see the real Trae Young come back out there, and he needs to start hitting more threes, more floaters, and regular finishes instead of just free throws.
All right, gentlemen, let's continue to press on for tonight. So looking more about All-Star Weekend, because we love All-Star Weekend so much. Do you like how the NBA is going to be doing the 3-point contest and skill challenge before the All-Star game? and the dunk contest at halftime of the All-Star game. For me personally, this is just way too much. You're telling me I have to shoot like clutch threes to win the three-point contest. Right after that, I could be in the skills challenge, dribbling up and down the court to try to have the fastest time. Then I play the All-Star game, and then if I'm one of those big men, I have to do a slam dunk competition or a guard. I'm like thinking, this is just way too much on the human body. It's just wear and tear on you at that point. I don't think it's really necessary to do all these events in the same time frame. Maybe it's spanned out before like the actual All-Star game. Maybe it's like, 3 hours before the All-Star game. If it was like that, then maybe it's reasonable. But if it's like 15 minutes before the All-Star game, oh no, that ain't gonna work out. But I want to go to Isaiah. Is this really the best option for the NBA? Could they just do it at another time or, earlier in the day instead of almost like right before the All-Star game?
Trevor, I know last week, right here on this show, I said that I thought that this was a bad idea when we were talking about, I think, the NBA having a slam dunk competition at halftime. But after thinking about it even more and looking into more details about it, I think that this is a good idea. And
Why?
And the reason being is because, the NBA could just make this like an all-star day where you have so many like
that defeats the purpose.
All-Star game. They're not going to be participating in the three-point shooting competition, the skills challenge, and the dunk contest. So it gives the NBA basically like, how the NFL does the Super Bowl, where Super Bowl, the game is like 3 hours, but right before the game, they have like all these like, festivities. They have the TV coverage leading up to the Super Bowl. Like that, it's like a whole day special pretty much on Super Bowl Sunday. This is pretty much the NBA's version of Super Bowl Sunday, where it's like in the morning you can have like big point competition and you have the skills challenge, and then in the afternoon you have the first half of the All-Star game, and then the dunk contest. You can have like an hour, and then you can give the players like an hour of halftime to rest and recover, and then in the second half, you have it obviously after the dunk contest. I just think it's going to be very entertaining. Basketball fans, I think, will love it. The only issue, though, I have is that with all these festivities getting added to the NBA All-Star game, that means more players are going to be headed to Atlanta. And right now, we're in a pandemic right now, and you want less people as possible for whatever event that you're hosting. So the more people means more people the NBA have to keep track of, when it comes to quarantine and lockdown and all that type of stuff. So that might be like a potential issue for the NBA. But in terms of like the basketball stuff of that day, I really like what the NBA is doing, and I think that Adam Silver did a fabulous job of orchestrating everything. Hey, I'm going to wake up at 7 in the morning, watch Devin Booker compete in the three-point contest, and then at like 9:30 in the morning, we got Lamelo Ball in the skills challenge, and then after that is finished, we've got the All-Star first half, and then the dunk contest. Hopefully LeBron is in there, which I highly doubt, and then you have the second half. I mean, who doesn't want to watch from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. All-Star festivities?
Your first mistake was saying All-Star Day. It's All-Star Weekend for a reason, Isaiah. You have the entire weekend to do fun activities, not just one day. Come on now. I'll go to Furman. What do you think? Is this really necessary by the NBA by stacking everything literally in one day?
Wow, I think you brought up a great point just now. I just realized All-Star Weekend really does have a purpose to that name. All-Star Weekend should literally be the weekend, not just one day, and I think you're right on that. But I do think that, I'm just going to say that it could go both ways, because three-point contest and skills challenge should not happen on the same day as the All-Star game, and I agree with what Trevor said. because wear and tear is really, it's true. If you're going to shoot a bunch of threes, and you're going to eat it all out in a 3-point contest, and then you have to still play that all-star game, you're going to get fatigued, even if the 3-point contest is in the morning and the all-star game is in the evening. You're still going to have that, faster wear and tear. There's a reason why pitchers have rotations, and there's a reason why NBA games, you have multiple days, to prepare for the next one. So 3-point contests, in my opinion, should happen the day before or 2 days before the actual All-Star game. And same with the skills challenge, because in the skills challenge, you're dribbling and you're running really fast. That's cardio. And that is going to also, you'll probably burn out for some of these players. You never know. Especially the big guys, I think, they might use more energy to try to really, catch up to the pace of these smaller players, these smaller guards. So the 3-point contest and skills challenge should not happen on the same day as the All-Star game, in my opinion. But what I do like from this is that the All-Star game, in my opinion, it does get boring sometimes, because you see all these crazy All-Stars play, and I don't think it's just as competitive as a regular game, because of all these great players. They have nothing better to show for now that all the best players are on the court. So at halftime, I think this is a really great idea to have a slam dunk contest to entertain the audience right before the second half. Now, the main reason why the slam dunk contest at halftime is such a great idea is because if you look at all these contestants in all these years in the slam dunk contest, have you ever seen any of these all-star players, compete in the slam dunk contest? All these players in the slam dunk contest are not all-star. Most of them are not all-star players or important players. And even if a really important player like LeBron James gets nominated or selected to the dunk contest, they're most likely not going to do it because they don't want to risk getting hurt for the sake of their team moving on to the playoffs or the rest of the regular season. So all of these competitors for the slam dunk contest are usually they're role players. They're not important players that cannot afford to get hurt during the dunk contest. So this is a really great idea, and I don't think it would affect the players or the audience at all in terms of wear and tear, or just having a fun All-Star weekend. It's a great trade-off, I think. So for me, the trade-off I think should happen is just have the NBA 3-point contest and the skills challenge to happen a day or two before, and then the dunk contest should happen right at halftime. I think that's the perfect plan for the All-Star weekend.
Yeah, I think the more I listen to your take, it kind of can go both ways, but at the same time, I'm still going to stick to All-Star Weekend because it's All-Star Weekend for a reason. And plus, like, this year kind of puts it into a little of a awkward scenario. But remember, in a typical normal year, we would have the celebrity game as well. So that would be an add-on to All-Star Weekend. But I know, with COVID, we can't do that. But keep in mind, if it was a normal regular year, we would have the celebrity game, and that'd probably be on like day one. So, that's why I'm saying the All-Star Weekend will probably still be the same once things come back to being normal. But Ishmael, agrees with you. You can go both ways in these ideas. And Ishmael also says that the NBA needs a rule for that players participating in the actual All-Star game should be forbidden for participate in the, other type of competitions due to wear and tear during All-Star Weekend, which is a valid point. But if it's like spread across 2 days, if there's a slam dunk competition on the first day and they play the All-Star game on the second day, they can do that because there's enough time in between to rest up before they actually have to suit up and play again. It'd be at least 24 hours before they, have to compete, which is enough. Rest time is not the, ideal amount of rest time for a player, but it's a respectable amount, to add on. I guess anything else that we would like to add about this topic before we move on to the Warriors and the Hornets? All right, let's move on. I know, Isaiah, you want to go into your rant real quick.
Wait, Trevor, can you introduce like the question for me? I don't.
All right, so the question is, with the Warriors playing the Charlotte Hornets this weekend, in retrospect, do you believe the Warriors still made the right decision by drafting James Wiseman over Lamelo Ball? Me, yes. They've still done the right thing because the Lakers are down a big man, and you got a big man. You can probably actually run LeBron James, though. James is not beefy like LeBron James, but he's a still respectable center because he's 7 feet tall. But I will go to Isaiah for your long rant. I'll give this camera spotlight on you.
Trevor, I believe that the Warriors should have taken LaMelo Ball then, and I still believe to this very day that the Warriors should have taken LaMelo Ball. And listen, I don't want to throw any disrespect towards James Wiseman. I think James Wiseman will have a good career. I think the reason why James Wiseman is struggling right now, besides the fact that James Wiseman is really young, he's only 19, is because of the Warriors are a team that they focus a lot on guard play and perimeter, and they run their offense primarily through their guards. And normally, the big man doesn't really do too much in their offense. Just look at the bigs that have come through Golden State. You look at Andrew Bogut, you look at JaVale McGee, you look at Damian Jones. They had him for 1 year. Kevon Looney, Festus Ezeli. I know those guys weren't stars, but still, all the bigs, all they did for Golden State was screen for the guards and roll to the basket to get lobs. That's the only thing that those big men did besides playing defense. And, that's why guys like Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid and other bigs right now in the NBA that rely heavily on their back facing the basket and posting up, I believe they wouldn't work in Golden State because Golden State they do a lot of ball movement and they don't really feed the ball into the paint that much. So I believe that those guys, even though it might sound asinine, I believe that they would have the same kind of impact that James Wiseman is having right now. But Trevor, back to the James Wiseman LaMelo Ball debate. You might want to put that three-way screen on, Trevor, because I think you guys are about to either walk off the set or be completely shell-shocked at what I'm about to say. I believe that the Warriors should have taken LaMelo Ball because, like I said, no disrespect to James Wiseman, I think that Ball is going to be great, not good. I think LaMelo Ball, Trevor, will be the face of the NBA in the next I believe that LaMelo Ball would be the face of the NBA in 6 years. I tried to tell people after I watched hundreds of hours of tape on LaMelo Ball when he was playing in Australia that this kid was the real deal and that he was going to be doing the things that he is doing right now in the NBA and be a superstar. You look at what LaMelo Ball is doing right now in the NBA. The guy is tearing apart the NBA, and he's doing it as a rookie. I mean, he's leading all rookies in scoring, assists, and rebounding. He's running away with the Rookie of the Year voting. The guy's got tremendous handles. He's got one of the best IQs I've seen in a long time in the NBA. He's a tremendous passer. He shoots the three ball fairly well, unlike his brother Lonzo Ball. He's fearless and he's willing to drive to the cup and also take the contact, which his brother doesn't really do a whole lot of. And also, LaMelo Ball, since I've watched LaMelo Ball, he's been a pretty good, solid defender in his short time in the league. I believe that he would have been able to help the Warriors now and also in their future, because right now, like Furman said earlier, the Warriors, if Stephen Curry is not going off, the Warriors are going to lose that respective game. That's how bad of a ball club they are without Steph Curry. LaMelo Ball, I believe, would have added another dynamic weapon for the Golden State Warriors, and he would have been a huge upgrade over the current guard play that they have in the Bay Area. You look at the guard play that the Golden State Warriors have right now besides Stephen Curry. Andrew Wiggins, I really like what I've seen from Andrew Wiggins, in his short time with the Warriors, but he's not that good of an offensive player. He's developed into a tremendous defensive player, probably one of the best defenders on the Warriors right now, which I really am surprised about. But like I said, he's not a good offensive player, and he's really inconsistent. And Kelly Oubre, who, when Klay Thompson went down a couple of hours before the draft, and then the Warriors traded for Kelly Oubre. They traded a draft pick and absorbed his $17 million per year contract, basically for Oubre to come in to replace Klay Thompson in the starting lineup. I said that was a terrible deal because, first of all, Oubre is inconsistent. Oubre can't stay healthy, and you're going to pay $17 million for that when you can get a dynamic rookie on the cheap for the next 4 years, and you can slot him into the starting lineup, and you can move Steph Curry to shooting guard, and him and Stephen Curry could be like the Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum type backcourt that they have in Portland in the Bay Area, where you can rotate between those two in terms of who handles the ball and runs the offense. And when the other guy's not running the offense, that guy can come off screens and get the ball and shoot the three and whatnot and drive to the basket. So I do believe that the Warriors, they made a mistake. Kelly Oubre right now, he's like 4 for 1,000 from three-point line. He's just been horrendous. I think LaMelo Ball would have been a definite upgrade over him. And also, like I said earlier, in the future, when Klay Thompson does come back, you can slot LaMelo Ball to the bench for like the next couple of years.
Wait, why would you drafted him to be a starter and then you're going to rotate him to the bench? That is disrespectful, my friend. That is disrespectful.
Rookies, they need development. You're not going to come into the NBA right away and boom, all of a sudden you're a superstar. Nobody's like LeBron James. Why I thought LaMelo Ball would have been successful is because you could have done either of these things. You could have either moved Klay Thompson to small forward, which I think would have been better for his legs so he doesn't run around all that often, or you could put LaMelo Ball on the bench, let him develop, hide him so other teams don't pick on him, because right now he's a good defender, but he's not great of a defender. You can hide him and his flaws on the bench, and then the Warriors would be able to get a good weapon on the bench. And then when Stephen Curry or Klay Thompson, they're old and then they retire, LaMelo steps right into it, takes the baton, and the Warriors, their dynasty is, extended for another long period of time. So I do believe that the Warriors made a big mistake in drafting James Wiseman over LaMelo Ball. It doesn't have to do with the fact that I think Wiseman is not going to be that good of a player. I think he's going to be good, but I just think Ball is going to be great.
Kirsty Wilson says it's the best. LaMelo Ball on the bench? How about no? That doesn't make any sense, Isaiah. You drafted him and he starts while Klay Thompson is injured. When Klay Thompson returns, you're going to put him on the bench? That's like, you starting your rookie quarterback in the NFL. It's like, well, he's not doing what I like. Well, he had a great, first year, but I'm going to go back to my seasoned veteran because I just like him better. And then it's just like, why do that? You're hurting growth and development by having a player, getting put back on the bench when he was just, starting a season ago. But go and try to defend yourself.
Well, then you put him as the starting point guard. You move Curry to shooting guard, and you put Thompson at small forward, which would be better for his legs, considering the fact that he is coming off a torn Achilles and a torn ACL. And bigs. Listen, bigs. The value of the big man nowadays is getting like smaller and smaller every single day. So I think that you could just get a serviceable big. The Warriors won a championship with JaVale McGee, dude. JaVale McGee wasn't like a star big. They can win a championship with a solid big. They just need great guard play, which is what the Warriors offense runs primarily through.
And then Kirsty Wilson says it the best. How would have the Warriors dealt with LaMelo's loudmouth dad if they picked him? Do you want that kind of controversy sitting around, Golden State? Probably not. But I'll go to Furman. What are your thoughts on this? I know you're on a tight schedule, but speak your 2 cents, my good sir.
Oh wow, I actually have a lot to say about this topic. Okay, I'm just gonna break this down from the very beginning. And what Isaiah said is exactly what I wanted to say. The Warriors do not need a big to help them, lift their team and help their team win on offense, especially. The Warriors have shown that they can have their success without, really getting a decent center at all. The Warriors did not need to draft a center either, because with Steve Kerr's play style of offense, it benefits all the guards. All the guards need to show up to score, and also to facilitate the offense. And what you're basically getting away with drafting a center is you're drafting a talent that is not going to be used, at its full extent. And that is what happened when they drafted James Wiseman. So what I had initially, what I would have preferred before Klay Thompson got hurt was that the Warriors would draft James Wiseman, because that would be an asset to their offense, obviously. If you have Steph and Klay healthy, and also Wiggins and Draymond Green, drafting James Wiseman is going to be an amazing year for the Warriors. Well, but Klay got hurt. And unfortunately, that had to happen at the worst time, because it happened right before the draft. So if that's the case, then the Warriors had to have drafted a guard, the best position available, which is point guard, shooting guard, to replace Klay Thompson. And when Klay gets hurt, this is exactly what the version of the Warriors I had envisioned this year. This Warriors team is way above average, but that's only if Steph Curry plays well. If Steph Curry doesn't play well, what do you have on this Warriors team? It is really difficult to really understand or at least see which type of player is going to run the offense besides Curry. You tried to sign Kelly Oubre in the offseason, which is an expensive deal, sending him away from the Suns. Kelly Oubre is not a consistent shooter, and I've always known that. Kelly Oubre is known as this flashy player, known for, having really amazing highlight plays, amazing dunks, posters, but you're not going to get this type of game with the Warriors, because the Warriors need shooters, not playmakers. So Kelly Oubre is just there, to try to fill the void of Klay Thompson, but that is obviously not his true role. It doesn't really work out. And then Andrew Wiggins, I still don't understand this decision. Why would you trade him away? Why would you trade D'Angelo Russell away for Andrew Wiggins? Like, Russell is clearly more consistent than Andrew Wiggins. Wiggins out there, I appreciate your game. You've definitely improved your game in the last 2 years, but I've never seen him as a consistent shooter. And with the Warriors, every time I watch them play live, and whenever Wiggins takes a shot, my heart just drops every time, because, I'm just scared for my life that Wiggins is going to go like 2 of 10 every game. Even though he's shooting like 50%, I think, from the field right now, it feels like he's shooting 39%. It's just, the consistency is not there for Andrew Wiggins. I'm sorry. And then, so now I'm going to get into the topic of what the Warriors truly need as a center. James Wiseman, James Wiseman is a really good player, a great prospect coming out of high school. But if you look at his build, this guy is a great shooter and an athletic player. But he is not a traditional center. What the Warriors need is like a Shaq type of center, a big guy who all you literally need to do with him is play good defense and grab boards. That's it. You just have to play like Rudy Gobert right now, comparable to him in the present, or DeAndre Jordan. You don't need a high value center that's going to be a crazy scorer like AD or James Wiseman. James Wiseman is literally a slim athletic center or a stretch 5 type of center. And like I said, this is limiting the Warriors and James Wiseman, because Wiseman's skill set is going to be used in the wrong way if he's going to continue to play for the Warriors right now. Even when Klay comes back, I don't see him having a high impact on offense, because all he does is just going to hand the ball off. And guess what? that's where the biggest issue lies with James Wiseman. The reason why he got benched in the middle of the season is because he couldn't rebound. He doesn't know how to get the boards. He can't box out. He is not aggressive enough to get those boards, even when he's 7 feet tall. And the second reason is because he is slim. 7 foot, at 7 foot, he's looking more like Bobo instead of, looking like Shaq. So, James Wiseman, I appreciate his game, but, the Warriors truly understand, his limited abilities on defense as well as getting boards. So that's the type of risk they got for drafting James Wiseman at number 2. So with that being said, I agree 100% agree with Isaiah. Warriors should have drafted Lamelo Ball because look at who he is right now. Lamelo Ball is, I agree with Isaiah, just like I said before, once again, he is going to be an all-star superstar player in the future. Look at what he is doing already in his first year as a rookie. If he's putting up these numbers as a rookie, making all these amazing passes, great plays with the Hornets in his first year, imagine what his peak is going to be in his second, third, fourth, and fifth years. It's just completely out of the table. He is not your typical Lonzo Ball. He's a completely different type of player. He is way more confident. He's willing to absorb contact, and he has a way more consistent jump shot than Lonzo Ball. If you look at Lonzo right now, even in his rookie season, he played really passive. His shots just never went in. And right now, as a player for the Pelicans, he's just a role player that just all he does is dish the ball away and spot up shoots. But LaMelo is not like that. He is a facilitator, an actual facilitator on offense. He's able to run the entire court. He's able to, make plays on and off ball. He's everywhere. This is the type of point guard or shooting guard that the Warriors need. Because throughout these years, if you think Steph and Klay were the only players to carry the Warriors to win 3 championships, you are completely wrong. In their first 2 years without KD, they had Iguodala, Barbosa, and Sean Livingston in the bench. And these guys are your typical guards. They were the playmakers off the bench. And that was why the Warriors had these huge 20 to 30-point leads every time because of their bench with guards that are just as good as shooting and playmaking as Steph and Klay. And now I'm going to go back to the LaMelo Ball when what's going to happen to him if Klay comes back. I do not believe that if you put LaMelo Ball as a point guard, Steph as a shooting guard, and Klay as a small forward, that this would improve the Warriors' offense right now. I think you should stick back to the same script as what you did with Leandro Barbosa, Sean Livingston, and Andre Iguodala. You got to put LaMelo in the bench when Klay comes back. This sounds very controversial because LaMelo has, he's really good right now, but you could make LaMelo the 6th man of the year. You could put him as a 6th man, give him more playing time in the bench. And while Steph and Klay gets the rest after facilitating the starters on offense, you could have LaMelo in the bench instead. And when he's on the bench, he's still able to make plays, help the team to put up more points while Steph and Klay are resting. You're going to have a really good, complete, team that the typical Warriors offense runs. So I feel like the Warriors missed out on this draft this year, and they had a lot of potential with LaMelo Ball. And you're not going to see the same type of potential with James Wiseman, especially with his build. I don't know how they're going to use him the right way, and I don't think they're going to be able to utilize James Wiseman, or at least both Wiseman or the Warriors would get along long term. And I think James Wiseman, to conclude this, he reminds me of David Lee, who was a really great player for the Warriors, but once Steve Kerr took over and he started to utilize the guards more, you saw David Lee's numbers drop extremely dramatically in 1 year because they just simply didn't have to use him anymore on offense. And that's exactly why, the Warriors needed to draft LaMelo Ball, because look at the player he turned into right now. It was a huge missed opportunity for the Warriors.
I'm going to have to counter that. It's like you just can't run a guards league in the West. Just look how big of the towering two you have with the Lakers. If you're trying to win a championship, you're going to have to get a big man at some point. Maybe you could wait a couple of years in the draft, but if you finish really well in the following year with all guards, it's like you just shot yourself in the foot and you just eliminated yourself from actually getting a decent big man in the first pick of your NBA draft with the luck of the lottery. But at the same time, it's like you can take James Wiseman and build him up and beef him up, and now you have a big man who's 7 feet tall who's now beefy. But I understand it takes time to build up that beef. Like LeBron James, when he first got in, he wasn't always that big and strong type of guy, that small forward that, used to body people around. Just look when he got to the Miami Heat. That's when he really got his weight, when he really became dominant. And you can say the same with Michael Jordan. Like when he got into the league, he wasn't big and strong, but he took the time and worked out in the following off seasons and became an elite basketball player. So James Wiseman has the potential to become something like that if he takes the time and becomes dedicated and gets in shape to become a big man. But if he doesn't, then you guys are right. Then the Warriors should have gotten LaMelo Ball. But if he has the opportunity to become a big man, I think the Warriors had a good job in selecting him if he was able to become something like that. But Isaiah, go.
Before Furman counters, I got to make this point. Trevor, you brought up the Lakers with Anthony Davis, right, about how they need a big...
But that's assuming that Anthony Davis was still healthy. That's to keep that in mind. Yeah.
Assuming Anthony Davis was still healthy. And besides Anthony Davis, you have, in the West with Gobert and, those great bigs that you have, Jokic as well. I'll counter with this. The weakness for the Lakers is what, Trevor? Perimeter defense. And why teams have been killing the Lakers this year have been perimeter with their perimeter play. So even if AD is healthy and he's able to get like his 25 to 30, 40 points, the Warriors would still be able to kill the Lakers because the Lakers' perimeter defense is garbage. I mean, last year their defense was already not that good. Avery Bradley was their best perimeter defender. He left to join the Miami Heat. Their defense, I believe, has gotten even worse on the perimeter. I believe LaMelo with Stephen Curry and that duo that they have with Clay eventually coming back, I believe that they would have, been able to just run roughshod over the Los Angeles Lakers and all these other teams that have dynamic bigs in the Western Conference.
But you got to get those second chance points now, Isaiah. If you don't get those second chance points, those threes literally mean nothing at that point if you don't get those rebounds from missed threes. And then the Lakers, they have, LeBron James can get that rebound, put it back up, get that easy too, because there's no big men to stop him. Or same with Anthony Davis. He can go down in the post, get that second chance rebound and put it back, get the easy two, or even draw the foul to make it a 3-point play. And he normally will make that free throw to get that 3 points. So it's like, I don't know. But I know Furman wants to counter my point of with the whole big man saga. It's like you can build up a big man, but it's like it's really hard to see James Wiseman to do something like that. But go on your take, Furman.
All right, so first off, I'd like to address what you said about developing James Wiseman's build over the years. It's definitely possible because you've seen a lot of guys completely transform into these crazy monsters on the perimeter. Giannis was probably the biggest example. Who would have thought Giannis would be the guy he is today? When I first saw Giannis in Milwaukee back then, he was literally just like Brandon Ingram's build. He was very skinny. And I thought that the only way the Bucks could use Giannis is to just use him to shoot, threes because he's that lengthy and nobody can really contest that shot. But look at Giannis within like 5 years, he just really turned into a huge monster up the paint. Nobody can guard him. And same goes with LeBron. Over the years, I agree with you, Trevor. He really bulked up and really turned into this, unstoppable force. So the Wiseman could do this. It's definitely possible, but this is the key right here for the Warriors, and this is the key is high value center. Do the Warriors really need a high valued center to run their offense or to help their offense? Because the Warriors' key to their offense right now is not their center. They highly value their guards, like I've said before, like Steph, Clay, and then coming off the bench, you had Iggy and Sean Livingston. You don't need to spend that much money or spend a high draft pick to get, a really good center. Even if you get like an extremely bulky center, like imagine if Zion was 7 feet tall and the Warriors drafted him. I didn't feel like that would have been a great pick for the Warriors because you don't need that high value player for the Warriors. Instead, if LaMelo Ball was the projected top 3 lottery pick, I would go for LaMelo Ball right there, and then in the free agency, pick up a really strong and high build type of center in the free agency. That would have been my go-to plan for the Warriors because that would still make them just as effective as they were before. So my biggest issue with the Warriors has been this entire time that is the rebounding and their second chance points. They traditionally they've never had great rebounders, and they always allow the other team to just get offensive boards. And on the market today, Warriors could have easily traded for a lot of these big centers to help their offense and defense. Jarrett Allen and DeAndre Jordan were the biggest two guys, on the market. They got traded for each other, or the teams traded for these two players for each other. But one thing the Warriors could have done is do just that. You don't need to get James Wiseman, and instead, if you got LaMelo Ball, you could just pick up either Jarrett Allen or a guy like DeAndre Jordan, who are big rebounders. They'll get your boards really fast. Even Steven Adams. So the Warriors, depending on who they draft or the players that they pick up, depends on their player value and how important they are to their team. And I still stand by the guards because that's where the most important scorers are right now.
Yeah, but I guess like I was gonna go earlier, like if you're gonna try to win an NBA championship, like you're gonna have to get a big man to face LeBron James. Like there's no way of getting past it. No matter how many good guards you have on a team who have really good shooting percentage behind the arc, but if you can't get those second chance points and stop LeBron James from driving in, you're gonna have a long NBA playoff series with the Lakers, and it's gonna be something that you're not gonna want to deal with, and you're gonna have to get someone, like I said, who can body LeBron James. And I will read Ishmael's comment: Isaiah, LaMelo Ball being the face of the NBA in 6 years. Is that LeVar behind Isaiah's face mask? Maybe it is, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe it is. But at the same time, we got to keep the show rolling. I know it was a good segment and, good discussion between, LaMelo and, James Wiseman. But we have to move on to the MLB segment with Isaiah. Let's go to the MLB segment. I'll let you have it.
All right, so yesterday, my Oakland A's made a stunning move by signing former Padres and Royals closer Trevor Rosenthal to a 1-year, $11 million contract. And Trevor, this was my reaction to the move.
Oh my goodness.
This was my reaction. By the way, shout out to my guy, Sammy Block, for giving us this amazing meme. But this was my reaction to that move. Because the Oakland A's, I think, Trevor, you already know, because I've been ranting about them for the last, 3-4 months. The Oakland A's are one of the cheapest franchises in all of sports. I mean, if you guys watch the movie Moneyball, you know that famous line. There's the Yankees, there's the Red Sox, then there's 50 feet of crap, and then there's us. That's basically how you describe the Oakland A's. The Oakland A's this season, or this offseason, refused to spend even a dime. And I thought that, the A's, with the offseason that they had and not spending any money whatsoever, I thought that the Oakland A's would, not be able to defend their AL West title that they won last season, and they would just miss the playoffs because of ownership's refusal to spend money time and time again. But Trevor, yesterday morning, I woke up in bed. I just sat there around 7:30 a.m. and I was just wondering what I should start my day with. And I looked at my phone to see the latest news that was going on in sports, and I saw that Trevor Rosenthal, according to John Heyman, had been talking to the Brewers. And then literally 5 minutes later, I got the notification on my phone that I think is going to change my year. And that is Trevor Rosenthal, the second best closer on the free agent market. That Trevor Rosenthal had signed with my Oakland Athletics. And like I said earlier, or gave that reaction earlier, this was my reaction to that news. I can't believe it. The cheap Oakland A's actually spent the most money that they've spent in like the last 10 years, and they've spent it and landed the second best closer on the free agent market. I'm just like so ecstatic right now that the A's actually did this. It helps our bullpen big time. I mean, Trevor Rosenthal, he came back from the elbow surgery, and he wasn't really the same, but he's bounced back. He's found his groove. And, Rosenthal, he's back to throwing 97 to 100 mile an hour on his fastball. He's got a nasty slider, nasty changeup as well. This guy is going to be a great addition to the A's. He's going to help us solidify and lock down the ninth inning when it matters the most. And now it also allows like all the other players that the A's have in their bullpen and that they just picked up, like Sergio Romo, Yusmeiro Petit, Adam Kolarek, Jake Diekman, Lou Trevino, those guys that I thought coming into this season would be battling it out and seeing who would be in the ninth inning. Those guys are now going to be able to go back to their spots that they were comfortable with, whether it's setting up in the eighth or the seventh inning, or coming in to face like a lefty in the seventh or even the sixth inning. Those guys will be able to get back to their normal roles and not go to a high pressured ninth inning situation now that Rosenthal has it taken care of. So it's a great move for the A's. I am pleasantly surprised that the A's made that move. Great for the A's that they actually did it. And now I believe, Trevor, that not only are the A's, I think, once again, the favorites to win the AL West, but the A's bullpen last year was already very good. I believe that bullpen this year is even better than that bullpen last season, because this bullpen is so deep. 1 through 7 in that bullpen. Any of those guys, like, they have electric stuff. They can all close. They can all set up. They can all, do all sorts of stuff. It's going to be a great season for the A's. Looking forward to seeing how that bullpen pitches this upcoming season, and I think Rosenthal would be fabulous pitching in Oakland.
And Casey King has a comment. He said Rosenthal is a good pick for the A's, and and they should win the AL West. That is a perfect way to cap out the MLB segment. But Isaiah, we've been waiting for this. We will have our glorious Pigskin Pick'ems yet again, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, you heard it first. Pigskin Pick'ems is back, and we are doing more of the, spring football rendition. Isaiah, please tell our fans, what teams are we going to be looking at this week in our Pigskin Pick'ems?
All right, guys. So for the next 2 months for our Pigskin Pick'em, we are going to be looking at spring football, like Trevor mentioned, and the games that we are going to be looking at is FCS games. So if you guys don't know a lot of the teams that are playing in the FCS, well, I recommend you guys to start getting to know some of these teams, because we are going to be, picking some of these games live on the air. The game that we have tonight actually involves one of my favorite teams, a team that I've been repping for a long, long time, and that is Tarleton University, I'm guessing, at New Mexico State. Bear with us, guys, because me and Trevor, we are kind of, unfamiliar, as some of you guys are, with some of these FCS teams. So we have Tarleton at New Mexico State. Trevor, I'm going to start. Oh, it's actually Tarleton State at New Mexico State. But Trevor, I'm going to start with you on this. Who are you taking? The game is on Sunday, February 21st. Tarleton State University, who is 0-1 against at the New Mexico State Aggies, who hasn't played a game yet.
So, from what I got, this team has 1 loss already. So they're going to try to avenge this, which I feel like they have the capability of doing. But the New Mexico State Aggies, from 2019, they were 2-10. Very embarrassing as an organization. Not pretty as an organization. But I did find a stat that kind of makes it hard to see how New Mexico is going to be favorable in this game. So the stat is this. Back in 2019, they scored 17 or fewer points in their first 9 games. So out of the 9 games, out of the 7 of those, they scored 17 or less. And if you carry that in today and what we're going through with the whole pandemic, teams looking rusty, I think that's going to still probably hold true in this game. So I'm going to go with the other team, Tarleton State, for the win. They're going to take care of New Mexico and make New Mexico look like a fool out there. Isaiah, your pick. I know you're going to go New Mexico, but tell the fans why.
Trevor, I'm trying to find that picture right now. I think we have it somewhere here in the archives. But give me the Aggies, the Aggie power that will happen on Sunday. Give me those New Mexico State Aggies. Listen, I know the New Mexico State Aggies have had their issues offensively for the last 2 years, as Trevor laid out for us. The Aggies, they've been dismal the last couple of seasons. Last season, they went 2-10. The year before, I think they went like 1-11. It's been a dismal 2 seasons for the New Mexico State Aggies, but still, the Aggies are an FBS team. The Aggies have had issues on the offensive line. They actually, revamped their offensive line this offseason. I think their offensive line should be much improved. They landed Michigan's transfer running back, Omari Samuels, and they also landed a quarterback in Jonah Johnson, who is a junior college transfer, who is supposed to be very good and a very good passer. And I believe that the Aggies, I'm going to go with the Aggies because I just don't trust the Tarleton State defense. Tarleton State, they were up 14 late in that game, and they gave up 21 straight points. That defense is dismal for Tarleton State. Give me the Aggies to run roughshod over Tarleton State on Sunday.
Well, Isaiah, we'll have to wait and see what the game looks like. But ladies and gentlemen, tune into the FCS schools and give them some support during this, pandemic that we're in, and just tune in to make sure those players are getting the respect and love that they deserve when, during the fall. Obviously, we look at the big schools in the Power 5 and the Group of 5, but now it's time for the small schools to shine. So make sure you tune in for some good classic football. And let's see what ends up happening. Isaiah?
New Mexico State 2021 FCS champs. Let's go, Aggies.
And Isaiah's curse has begun, ladies and gentlemen. New Mexico will go 0-12, and that will be it, ladies and gentlemen. But now let's move on to the Power 5.
Персональный спутник.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's about 1 hour and 42 minutes into the show. We've had some very interesting takes from start to finish, but now we have finally reached our Power 5 segment. And tonight's Power 5 segment falls underneath board games. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, board games is tonight's Power 5. And Isaiah, looking at tonight's segment, I'm going to be interested if you don't have one of these items on your Power 5 list. If it's not on it, I don't think you've done your Power 5 right, but go with your Power 5.
Every time we do the Power 5, there's always a threat of you walking off the set due to some outlandish or outrageous thing that I might have added to my Power 5. So here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to add a couple of honorable mentions before I give my Power 5, about 1 or 2. So I would say one of my honorable mentions is Operation. Operation, it's a fun game where you try to take the body parts out of that human body without, striking the metal part and initiating that buzzer. So I love playing that game. It's really challenging and really hard too, because, you try to stick that thing and try to get one of those body parts, whether it's an intestine or in a lung, and then you just hit it. It's like, oh, dang, I have to start all over again. So that is, I would say, one of my honorable mention. And the second honorable mention I have is Candyland.
Oh, there you go.
Yes, Candyland. The reason being is because, I mean, first of all, like, the game is, if you look at the game board, it's really cute. And secondly, like, who doesn't want to take a trip to, like, chocolate fudge fountain or Trevor? I mean, like, I haven't played.
I knew you were gonna talk about food, so I'm like, if he doesn't put candy,
He just added food. The food streak continues. But who doesn't want to, like, take a trip to, like, chocolate fudge fountain or Midland or whatever lands that they have there? I mean, it's just fun. But going into my Power 5 for tonight, number 5 on this list is Sorry. I love Sorry. I mean, it's just it's so colorful. You move this, you roll the dice, you move it, everywhere. It's a fun game to sit down and play with. Only issue though is you need at least 3 to 4 people to make it fun. Can't really have like one other person besides you. It won't be that fun. Number 4 on my list is Battleship. I love Battleship, man. I played it so many times when I was younger. Didn't really win a whole lot, but hey, it's still part of my list. Number 3 is Uno. Yes, Uno.
That's a card game, though.
What?
That's a card game, though.
Isn't it a board game, card game?
No, Uno is just a card game, my friend.
But hey,
how do you unscrew up the board game list?
Hold on. I searched up board games on Google, and it's technically considered a board game if you trust Google.
I guess it depends how you define the word board game. I think that's how when I was looking at the word board game, I'm thinking, could Jenga be considered a board game? Could Uno be considered a board game? But if I say Uno is a board game, then blackjack and poker is a board game, but it's not. It's a card game.
Well, but blackjack and poker, they're different though, because you play that at a casino. You're not gonna play Uno at a casino though.
I would love to see Uno at a casino game.
Maybe next time when we have like an MI6 trip to Vegas, we just bring a pack of Uno, put it on the gambling table. But yeah, Uno's number 3 on my list. It's very fun. Different colors and the different rules of that game. That was number 3. Number 2 on my list is Monopoly. Yes, Monopoly. For any board game list, you gotta have Monopoly on that list. Monopoly is an all-time classic game. I mean, who doesn't like taking trips to Boardwalk or Pacific Boulevard, or buying some property and investing some money? I mean, it's just like a preview of what real life is. And number 1 on that list is the game that your boy Trevor is the king at. I've only lost twice in the
Connect 4?
No, hold on. I've only lost twice in the thousands of times that I've played that game, and that is Connect 4. I am so good at Connect 4. I was deciding, should I put Monopoly at 1 or Connect 4? But Connect 4 goes at number 1 because I'm just so good at that game.
Well, I think Casey Cake has not like a game, but let me know if the MI6 does a trip to Vegas. I'm down for that. I feel like Isaiah will lose the money, and we'll all just be looking, come on now, Isaiah. We told you not to lose the money, and we ended up losing the money. But, Yeah,
we're going to have to be like that episode of Family Guy, where Stewie and Brian loses the money, and then they have to, panic race out of Vegas before the people that loan them the money catch up to them. That might be us, Trevor.
But let me go on to my Power 5. So, we are going one of the old school classic games, a simple game of checkers. Yes, a simple man's game for a civilized day and age, where you play the game of checkers. I have been very successful. I played it back in 4th grade, and I literally ran the table, becoming one of the best checker players at the early, child care services. I was pretty good. I, got some double jumps, triple jumps, and I was a king at the table in that sense, and I had a solid checkers record. But that's with checkers. Now, another great classic board game that's up there in its age is chess. A man of intellectual and sophisticated is a game of chess. If you're not very one-dimensional like the checkers people, chess is very more complex. Isaiah, I know you're a checkers man. I know you can't say anything else. I used to play chess back in the 2nd grade, and I got waxed, my friends. I got obliterated, but as time progressed, I understood the game of chess and developed strategies. And now, every now and then, I play a game of chess to just test my strategies against AI, see how well I fare. And it's a good game to, get the mind thinking and it's like, how do I think 2 steps ahead of my opponent and what they're going to end up doing? And can I set that up for the perfect checkmate to win the game? Isaiah, do you have any comments before I move on to my top 3?
Yes.
A simple math game.
Actually, before before you move on, Trevor, I gotta say this. This might sound very, very surprising to you guys, but the reason why I didn't put let's start with chess actually. The reason why I didn't put chess on my list is because in my entire life, I've been on this earth for
You never played chess.
years. I've only played chess 3 times. That's it. I've only played chess 3 times, and I've lost all 3. I got obliterated in all 3 times that I played chess. I absolutely suck when it comes to playing chess. And man, John Alcord, I don't know if he's listening, and all these other guys, if they catch this, and everybody else might just walk off the set right now when they're watching the show. I've never played checkers in my life. I have never, ever, ever played checkers in my life. Yes, Trevor, you're
No checkers. The simple man game. Isaiah, how have you lived? You have to at least play 1 game of checkers in. I don't know how to feel. I feel like my rest of my Power 5 doesn't matter anymore because you haven't played checkers. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that will do it here tonight. No, I'm just joking.
Watch my Secret Santa now. I'm gonna get chess and checkers.
Yeah, you're probably gonna get checkers. Oh man. Casey King, thank you. Isaiah, you really went full Higgins if you haven't played checkers. Oh man. I'm just gonna stop and read his Power 5. So Casey King's Power 5 is Monopoly, Candyland, Checkers, Connect 4, and Roulette. Let me finish my Power 5 before I have any more nightmares from Isaiah saying he hasn't played certain board games that are classics. But these are, on his list. We have Sorry as my number 3. I just enjoy it because I love landing on someone else's piece and saying sorry and moving them back to home and continue on. But the most annoying thing about Sorry is when you're trying to win the game and you need the exact number to get in the home base and you're just praying that you have the right card that shows up, but it's not there. And before I get to my number 2, Ishmael said Shoots and Ladders, fellas. Yes, I feel like that's an honorable mention, but that's just a game of luck with the spin dial. And I played that game a couple times in my childhood. It's a great game, and I had that board game as well. My number 2, I will say on my list, is one of my sweet and dear to my soul, is the game of Risk. World domination at its finest. If you want to take over the world, Risk is the game for you. For me, the first time I played Risk, I captured Australia and built up the Australian army and marched through Asia and became a fierce fighter and became the second to last player to stand because the person I faced took over majority of the world and pushed me all the way back to Australia. And it took them forever to eliminate my army in Australia because it was like the million-man army at that point. And then the one of almighty games, the game that I love the best, that takes forever to finish. Isaiah, you know what this game is. It was on your list. It's Monopoly, the game that takes so much time. I remember I played in AP Gov, and our government, teacher made a rule in free parking. Sometimes people put the money any from taxes and all that stuff that were collected from the cards, challenges, and stuff like that. It was put in the middle. But since it was an AP government class, he made the rules that anytime that you take money out of free parking, it was taxed to the government. So you wouldn't get all the money that was in, the free parking areas. So, keep that in mind. It changed the games of Monopoly for me. But one time when I was playing in Monopoly, I counted all the single ones. And it turns out there's 50 ones in the game of Monopoly. So once I figured that out, I was literally passing around the ones saying, oh, you want 50? I just handed people the lump of ones. I'm like saying, there you go. You got your 50 ones. You're now a rich man in ones. And we just kept passing the ones around. But that will conclude my Power 5, Isaiah. Let me read some of our comments before we go to our final thoughts. Casey King's honorable mention for him is, sorry and shoots and ladders. Yes. And Ishmael, what? Isaiah has never played a game of checkers. You made him fall off his chair. Come on, Isaiah. You are really hurting the motivation of our people tonight. Oh, man, I got to play you in a game of checkers.
Yes, we definitely do. We definitely have to do it.
Just to get you to play it. But now let's move on to our final thoughts. All right, it seems like we're on the daunting task of another 2-hour show on No B.S. It's been one of those things on the third season 3, episode 6, and man, Isaiah, we're getting close to 2 hours. It's like 1 hour and 55 minutes and 55 seconds the last time I just read it. But Isaiah, what are your final thoughts tonight?
Well, Trevor, I think that this is like our first final thought. Man, the brain is just going completely out after like a really long show. But I believe this is like our first 2-hour show in season 3. I think it's been a long time since we've done like an actual 2-hour.
No, it's the first of the new year, technically.
Yeah,
it took us about a month and 19 days.
Great accomplishment.
What a record. We're going to screw that up, ladies and gentlemen. We failed our New Year's resolution.
Yes, we made a New Year's 19th. No 2-hour show. 1 month in, and it's going to be about to break unless we can finish our final thoughts and finish the
That's not happening.
3 minutes. But before I get into my final thoughts, I want to thank, Casey, Ishmael, as well as Christy Wilson, Edward Lee, Stephen Wang for tuning in as well, Shardo Gupta, Mega Dramin Fan 31 tuning in via YouTube. Don't know who you are, but really appreciate you for tuning in. Also want to thank Callan McClurg for tuning in. Yes, Callan says, hey, Leog, guess what? I'm watching you. Callan, thank you so much for tuning in and taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. I hope you didn't catch the fact that I've never played checkers in my life, and you're going to hold that against me once again. Hope you didn't. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And, ladies and gentlemen, my final thoughts for tonight's show is this. Trevor, there is a top 5 college basketball marquee matchup this upcoming Sunday that will go far to determine the Big Ten. I think you know what I'm talking about and what I'm referring to. It is number 3 Michigan versus number 4 Ohio State.
My pick.
Yes, and that's Trevor's pick, but I'm going to get into my pick later in my final thought. But in this is like the first top 5 matchup ever between these two schools. I mean, that's just totally incredible and unbelievable. But Trevor, and to all of our fans right now that are watching this program, let me tell you guys this. Trevor, Steven, Brian Gatumbi, Mitch Heller, and Gabe Jackson, and all my friends that went to Ohio State, Sammy Block as well and Sammy Sharp, Michigan is going to unleash the biggest butt whooping on Ohio State on Sunday that will have the folks in Columbus ripping off their scarlet and gray shirts and scarlet and gray hats that Trevor is wearing right now and putting on the maize and blue t-shirts and the maize and blue hats after that game is over. That's how bad that blowout is going to be. Michigan, ladies and gentlemen, is miles ahead of the flukes that are the Ohio State Buckeyes. You might as well just change Ohio State's name to, instead of the Buckeyes, to the Fluke Guys, because that's what are. Ohio State being ranked number 4 in the country is like the Jazz being ranked number 1 in the Western Conference. Total jokes, total flukes. Ohio State is not going to win this game. I am so confident that Michigan is going to beat Ohio State, that if somehow, some way that Michigan were to win, put me on record in saying this. Trevor, you see this wall behind me? That is like empty right now. It is empty. If Ohio State were to win that game on Sunday, you better believe that starting next week, Monday, and for the entire week, this entire wall will be plastered with everything Ohio State Buckeyes related. Everything. There'll be tons of Buckeyes posters and pictures all over this wall. And
Hold up.
before you go, Trevor, I'll say this. Besides doing that, if you follow me on social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, if Ohio State somehow wins on Sunday, I will change every one of my profile pictures to a picture of Brutus, the Ohio State Buckeyes mascot. And also, one last thing, you see my name down below, the Asian Skip Bayless?
Yes.
It will say the Asian Skip Bayless starting on Monday. If that happens, it will say Ohio OSU number 1 in the world, and it will stay like that for the next 2 months. That's how confident I am the Buckeyes aren't going to win. Give me Juwan Howard and the Michigan Wolverines to beat down on the Ohio State Buckeyes in Columbus and avenge all those football losses that Ohio State has beaten Michigan in. You can beat us in football, but you can't beat us in our best sport, which is basketball. But go ahead.
I say you're gonna make Jim Harbaugh.
We'll be talking about that one for a long time, Joe.
You gotta make him fall. And second, you gotta have pictures of me there in your Ohio State wall. Get all your best Trevor Ohio State photos up there to just remember, who's your daddy.
Hey, send me some. If Ohio State wins, feel free, Trevor, to send me some pictures of you wearing Ohio State gear, and I'll definitely plaster them on the wall. Definitely. Right. You got a deal, Trevor. And also, don't forget, I am going to mail you your favorite soda if that happens, which highly doubt.
I'm never going to get a soda. That's just Venmo me the money, and I'll just go pick it out myself, all right?
Oh, man.
But let me read some of our comments from our viewers before I reach into my final thoughts. Isaiah has never played a game of checkers. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is true. He has never played a game of checkers. Another comment from Kirsty Wilson. Oh, no, Isaiah's back on the Michigan bandwagon. Yes, the bandwagon has started for Isaiah. He's on it, and I hear loud music coming from that band. So let's hope that band doesn't fall flat and fall off the wagon. And last but not least is Casey King. I'm looking forward to the Ohio State-Michigan game for basketball on Sunday. And I'm going with Ohio State to win in a close one. This game will not be a blowout. I guarantee you, when you have the top schools in the country, it's rare to see a blowout happen. But when it's basketball, anybody can beat anybody on any given night. So let's see what goes down in Columbus, Ohio. But for me,
do not mess with that game, please.
Oh, for sure. But for me, my final thoughts, yes, ladies and gentlemen, we crossed over 2 hours. There goes our New Year's resolution. That is the first part to our announcement. Next but not least, our show lineups for the week. Mondays and Wednesdays is Wild Sports Talk. And Thursdays is That One Dude with John Alcorn. Fridays is No B.S. with me, Isaiah, and Furman. And Saturdays and Sundays is the night shift. And once in a blue moon, fan response happens on Saturdays. So that is our lineup. Times will be, shifting, but, make sure you like our social media pages so you know when we go live. And make sure you have that notification turned on so you can get notified when a show is happening, so you can plan your day around and, be ready for all that excitement. But that will do it for me and Isaiah. It's been a fantastic show, everybody. Take care, stay safe, and enjoy the rest of your evening. And if you're on the East Coast, we are about 10 minutes away from midnight into the next day. So I hope you all sleep well on the East Coast. On the West Coast, get close to 9 o'clock, get your favorite bedtime snack, and get ready for the bed. And take care, everybody. See you all next week.
Yeah. 3-6, Mafia. Whoa. Hey, yeah. Whoa. Say what? Whoa. 3-6, Mafia.